What's going on, guys? What we're going to be going over today is the 2026 meta ad strategy for any high ticket coach or anybody that sells a high ticket product. Online, I'm going to be going over everything from campaign structure, ad set structure, the whole work. So that way you guys would have the exact strategy to implement in your business in order to scale up. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. We're here in the Facebook Ads Manager. I'm going to create for you guys the entire campaign from top down perspective of the exact campaign that you guys need to be creating. First thing you want to do, click on create for a new campaign. In this case, we're going to go over leads and select leads. First off, we need to give our campaign a name. So in this case, since we're going after schedules, and then we'll change the date to today. I believe it is the 8th for this recording right now, 2026. Leave everything here. A lot of people ask me whether they should use CBOs or ABOs when they're running campaigns right now. I wouldn't recommend running any sort of CBOs for these ads in particular. And it's just because I have noticed that there are a bunch of overspending and allocation of budget in the wrong locations. So I always like to leave things on ad set budget level just to give me a little bit more control. I do recommend having this little block checked so that way if Facebook does see that another ad set is performing well, that they can distribute some of those funds. Next up, we're going to click on next. Inside of here in the ad set level, we're going to name this one broad. And I'm going to set up a handful of different ad sets. But first off, we're going to go and name it broad. And then whatever you guys are doing, whether it be instant forms or sending them to a website, this is where you'll go ahead and select. So if you're sending instant forms, select instant forms. But in the case that we're doing, we'll go ahead and click on website. And the same strategy will work with instant forms as well. So if you're doing instant forms, just select instant forms, but set up the campaign the exact same way. Next up, we're going to select our pixel. After that, we're going to select on conversion event. Click on schedule. So you can select lead if you're trying to get leads. Typically what I would recommend with any high ticket coach is if somebody's going to say a website to a VSL, they need to be booking an appointment. So obviously we want to optimize for schedules. But if you're just trying to get like a bunch of lead numbers and calling up all those people, then you would select lead in this case. But for us, we're going to go and click on schedule, scroll down. For the daily budget, I would recommend running this at $25 a day. To start, my recommendation is having a budget of upwards of $100 a day. Now, it will make more sense on how all that money is going to be added up here in a second, but we'll run this at $25 a day. For controls, just make sure you select the country that you're located in. If you're a local service-based business doing this, then just make sure you're setting a radius. For a local service-based business, I would say start with a 25-mile radius from your business and then scale up to 50 miles if you are in a geographical location. If your minimum range is required, you can scale that up, but I would leave that as is. And then if you needed to select a particular gender, you can do that as well. Now, for the suggested audience, we're not going to touch any of this. We're going to leave all of this open, genders, age, and everything. We're going to leave that as is since this is broad targeting. From there, this is where we're going to insert our ad. So now at the ad level, we're going to name this ad 1. Select your Facebook page, Instagram page that's associated with the account. Once you have your link in there of exactly where you would want them to go, you'll put that here in the website link, come all the way down here, select on none, and then we're going to set up our creative. Now, I'll go over creatives in a different lesson, but with creatives, you want to have a variety. You want to have, especially when it comes to top of funnel, you want to have a variation of 3 and 3, so 3 static ads and 3 video-based ads, and making sure that you have different headlines with each of those. Some that are direct, which is you calling out the audience, business owners, right? Business owners making $5,000 a month, mothers with 2 children, right? Where you're calling out your audience. Then you also have a couple of those ads being more indirect where you're not specifically calling out your audience, but you're mentioning something that that person resonates with. So for example, if I was marketing to e-commerce business owners, I would use a screenshot of a Shopify dashboard with $1 million on it. That would be a way of indirectly calling out my audience because my audience that I'm trying to target are going to see that, but the only people that are going to recognize that Shopify dashboard is somebody that runs an e-commerce business. Then that would be a indirect ad. Once you select your ad, what we want to do is we want to add 3 types of primary text. If you can add up to 5, that would be even better. So we would have text 1 here. We'd add an option for text 2 and then primary text 3, followed by 3 specific headlines. So you would have headline 1, add another one, headline 2, so on and so forth. And then just make sure your call to action is learn more. You can select sign up or register today, but learn more I see does the best when it comes to lead gen ads. Once you do that, you'll click on next and then finalize your ad. All right, and then once you finalize your ad, now you should be able to duplicate this ad. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna duplicate this 5 times So then we would have add 2, add 3, add 4, all the way up to 5 to 6 times. And so that way we can have all of our variations to our ads in here. So then we would do add 2, we would scroll down here to the very bottom and then update the creative. So that way we would have another creative for add 2 and then do the same thing for add 3, so on and so forth. So what we're gonna do now is we're now gonna click on quickly duplicate. We're gonna change this to stacked. And this ad set is going to be still at $25 a day, just like our broad one. However, this one, we're going to focus on specific interests that are related to our business. So for example, if you own a marketing company or a company that targets business owners, then you might want to target things like entrepreneurship, small business owner, marketing, digital marketing, so on and so forth. If you run a fitness company, you want to target people in fitness, maybe things of fitness, personal care, health, wellness, those would be certain targeting to focus on. So let's just do an example real quick. Let's pretend we have a health and wellness company. What we do is we're just going to select about 5 to 8 of these. So we have health and wellness, interests. Let's see if we can find another one. Health club, fitness. We want to make sure, obviously, all of the ones that we're picking have an audience size, I would say over 9 figures preferred. If we can. Anything like below that, it's just a little bit too confined, especially if you're trying to scale up your budget. And then we'll pick one more for good measure. So that way now we've got 5 interests that is related to our industry, and we're gonna leave that as is. And then once we finish off our stacked, we're gonna go ahead and duplicate again. So since now we did a stacked interest, we did a broad interest, now we're gonna call this one lookalike audience, which is the LLA. What we want, and this is what I'd recommend, especially if you have a brand new account, is you need some sort of data to help out a new ad account in order to get better quality leads in the early stages. What we want to do is we want to create a lookalike audience based upon an email list. So if you have an email list of anybody that's bought from you in the past, maybe they've booked appointments with you, maybe you have leads. Preferably if you have like emails, people that have registered to buy your stuff in the past or whatever, those would be the best leads to utilize. If you do not have an email list of any sort, it's completely fine. I'm gonna show you exactly how you can get more emails in order to optimize this. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna open up a new tab. You're gonna go to your Instagram. Once you get here to your Instagram, what you're gonna wanna download is this Chrome extension. It's called Groman IG Email Extractor. Once you download that Chrome extension, it's basically like $5 a month, I believe, in order to get this. This is gonna come in handy in order to get email. So what we wanna do is we wanna find somebody that's in your niche. So for example, if I was a high ticket coach, one of the best people in the high ticket coach space is Alex Ramosi. And what we need to do is we wanna scrape this list of all of his followers and see if we can find emails that these people have publicly allowed. And what we're going to do is we're going to consolidate all of those emails into a consolidated CSV file, which is going to help us configure our lookalike audience. So what you're going to do is once you find a creator that is in your niche, open up the Chrome extension. Once you open up this Chrome extension, you're going to select this bottom block, and then you're going to paste in the profile of exactly who you want to go after. You're going to leave this on, leave this as a maximum extract. And then for wait intervals, I wouldn't do anything less than 12 seconds. So basically what that's going to do is that means it's going to scrape another follower every 15 seconds. The reason why this wait time is really, really important is because basically Instagram is going to pick up this as like a bot behavior, which we obviously don't want, and it could ban your account. My recommendation is obviously have an Instagram account that's not affiliated with your main Instagram account, like just make a burner account. And this is the only place that you would do your Instagram email scraping. Once you push go, you want to let this run for roughly about 48 to 72 hours at bare minimum. And you want this to consolidate at least 500 emails. Once you get 500 emails, if you can get 1,000, that would be great. But once you have those emails, you're going to go back to the ads manager. You're going to scroll all the way down, back to the custom audience, create new custom audience, customer list, next, click on next. And then we're going to upload that CSV file that has all the emails in it. Once you upload that email list, you're going to click on next and you're going to complete this. And then once you upload that email list, you can leave that email list as a custom audience. But what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to create a lookalike audience based upon that list. So a lookalike audience is basically going to find people that are similar to the people that are on that list. That's why it's important to find a person, a competitor that's in your niche already, because then it's going to be much more confined of the people, exact people that you want to target. You would look for that lookalike or that source. Once you have your CSV file selected, just pick the location of where you're wanting to run, whether it be in the United States or whatever country you're in. You're going to leave this at 1% and then push create audience. Then you're going to leave this in there, and this is going to be the lookalike audience at 1% that you're going to run. That's going to basically run this account. You'll be very surprised. Honestly, even when I'm scaling up companies, sometimes the lookalike audience not only is the best performing ad set in the very early stages, but it actually scales extremely well and is still one of my lowest cost per leads, per schedules, and acquisition costs is always coming directly from this. Once you have your lookalike audience in there, we're then going to go ahead and select on it again. We're going to quickly duplicate it once again. And then this one we're going to call retargeting. Once you select on retargeting, you're going to scroll down. And we're going to leave the budget at $25. A general rule of thumb with retargeting is you don't necessarily want retargeting to exceed 20 to 25% of your overall budget on the top of funnel side. So, usually in this case, since we're spending $75 on the top of funnel side, we probably wouldn't want to spend anything more than $20 to $25, give or take. Obviously, you can always add a little bit more, but the reason why is because if you're not adding enough flow of traffic through your top of funnel, you're going to burn through your retargeting audience extremely quick, right? Because you need more people coming from top of funnel in order to fill up the bucket of your bottom of funnel, which is basically what your retargeting audience is going after. So you can leave this at $25 or you can reduce it down. Inside of custom audiences, we're going to create a custom audience. And then we're going to select on Instagram. So if you haven't done so yet, you should be posting at least on a consistent daily basis preferred to your stories, to your Instagram Reels preferred, and reposting that stuff over to your Facebook page, because this is going to help out your retargeting campaign a ton. Select on Instagram account. Select on your Instagram account. Next up for the events, we're going to leave this as is, people who have engaged with the Instagram account with over the last 365 days. And then we're just going to call this Insta 365 day engagement. And then create that audience. Once we create that audience, then we're going to create another audience as well. Create another custom audience. Website. Next, we're going to select on our pixel events, all website visitors, and we're going to select this as 30 days. So this basically is going to go after all of our website visitors over the last 30 days and then retarget those people. And then we're going to click on create audience. So once we have those inside our retargeting campaign, what we also want to do is, this would be the only time I'd really recommend changing your ads in the retargeting. I wouldn't necessarily recommend running top of funnel ads inside your retargeting. You want to add testimonials in there. So just replace the videos that you had or the static images that you had on your top of funnel ads. Just replace those with testimonials instead, or case studies, in order just to build proof, especially if people have already booked in or they haven't booked or they visited the website but never took action. It's always really, really solid to have those testimonials, because it's going to get people over the line, because now they actually see that you actually put to work what you preach. You can go ahead and publish this entire campaign. Now, what you guys should be looking at is one campaign, and obviously mine is not published because I didn't want to publish it, but you should have one campaign directly in here. Inside there, you should have 4 ad sets: broad, retargeting, lookalike, and then stacked interest. And then in each side of each of those interests, you should have at least 5 to 6 ads. Once you have all of this set up and you publish it, you're going to let your ads run for 7 days. Now, what you might be asking is, okay, that's just the first piece of the puzzle. What data am I looking at in order to scale? So it's relatively simple. I'm going to show you exactly what columns you're going to need. Starting from left to right, I always like to read my ad data from left to right. Left being highest point of the funnel, and then the right being exactly where you wanted to take them, whether that be a purchase, whether it be a scheduled appointment, whatever. What I always like to have is delivery, then frequency. Frequency basically tells you how many times is your ad being shown to people. Usually you want that somewhere between 1 to 2 for a top of funnel campaign, and anything for retargeting is above a 3, between a 3 to a 10. If that frequency is basically like over a 2, when you're running top of funnel traffic, that means like your ads are getting too saturated and you need to have new ads. Link clicks followed by CPC and then CTRs. I also like to track the CPC all and cost per link click. And then you have your CTR. So CPC is basically how much you're paying per click. And then a CTR is basically the percentage of people that are clicking to your website. For lead generation, what you want your CPC is sub $2 if you can get it below $2, and a CTR of over 2.5% is where you want to be. Next up is your CPM. So a CPM basically tells you how expensive your ads are. It's saying how much money does it cost for 1,000 pair of eyeballs. A good CPM on a lead generation campaign is somewhere between $50 to $100. Now, if you're going after a really confined audience, say, for example, doctors, chiropractors, or something very, very specific, you can see your CPM get into the hundreds and 200s in that case. So it is a lot more competitive, but it's just because you're having a much more narrow audience. So if your CPMs are very high, more than likely you're just not broad enough. Next up is leads and appointments scheduled. So it depends on, what are you optimizing for, leads or appointment schedules. So that would be here. So it would be however many leads you got and what is your cost per lead. And the same thing for a schedule. So how many schedules did you get and what's your cost per appointment schedule? Those can vary. I would recommend for lead cost, usually you would want a lead cost somewhere between $10 and $30, especially if you're with instant forms. You should definitely be getting something sub $15. If you're sending them to like a website to opt in, usually those opt-ins can jump to $15 to $30. For your cost per booked appointment, usually what we want is somewhere between $100 to $200 cost per booked appointment at most. And usually if we can get it sub $100 for a cost per book appointment, that is ideal. And that's somebody that like physically books on your sales team calendar. And then finally, we want the amount spent, your budget, and then if there's any other particular results that you wanted to show at the very end. When it comes to the 7 days, once those 7 days transpire, you're going to look at all this data. You're going to go off the metrics that we just went over, and you're going to determine on what's working and what's not working, okay? You're going to go into each and every single one of these ad sets. You're going to kill the ads that are not meeting your KPIs and benchmarks, and then you're going to leave the ads on that are performing. You're going to continue scaling up in 20% increments as you continue to scale. You usually only want to scale every 2 to 3 days. I wouldn't try to scale like every single day. I would give it like 2 or 3 days. So that way Facebook can optimize at each one of those spend levels, just because we don't necessarily know if your ads can handle $200 to $300 to $400 of extra spend. So we want to make sure that every time we're scaling the budget up, especially since it's going to be very exponential on how you're going to be scaling, especially if you're scaling at 20% every single day, it's going to get quite expensive, and we want to make sure that your ads are able to perform. This is the ad strategy going to 2026. Honestly, if you utilize this structure, you should be able to get some really cheap bookings. We're doing this with a handful of our clients right now. We're averaging anywhere between $30 to $60 cost per booked appointment, which is absolutely disgusting. And it just allows us, because we have so much more data coming in here, and you got to just be patient with it. It costs money to make money at the end of the day. And if you can pull your emotions out of running your Facebook ads, you're going to find that you're going to perform much, much better than you really thought. So if you guys have any questions, just drop your questions below. Don't forget to join the Lead Gen Experts Elite program. Directly below there, there's a link, and we have a 1-day free trial on there. And we also have a free Lead Gen program as well too. Links down in the description below. So cannot wait to catch you guys on the next call. Check out my other videos, and yeah, let's crush it in 2026. Let's go.